Okay, so now I'm going through the mic channel. Maybe that works better. I'm not sure. Nick.
Perfect, says X.
Oh, perfect. Wow, that's
Right.
so weird. That is so weird. Okay, so I'm gonna try one more thing because I might. So I have a couple of scenes here. There's a chance that I will. Wait.
Wait, don't fuck it up if it works.
Well, no, no, no. It's just like I might have to change it for the other scenes as well. That's what I'm saying. Um, cool. Mr. Nubical says night and day difference sounds great. Yeah, whatever. I haven't figured OBS out yet. It's open source software, I guess. I had many people give me recommendations on this, and one person urged me to get XSplit. So maybe that's a better
Is
option.
I have a question for Mr. Nubicles. Is that like noob testicles or a noob bicycle or something else, or a noob icicle?
Um, we'll see.
There's only three options.
We'll see what that's at. What the reply is in a second. But anyway, so yeah, a bunch of people said I should get XSplit. Maybe Mr. Nubical says,
Hey,
"What?
don't weasel out of this. I asked
What?
you a hard question.
Oh, you're getting up to date.
Yeah, I can see the chat
Okay,
now.
cool. So as I say, once we go into the game, I might need to. You might not hear me for a second, then I'll just have to add this.
Okay.
Because I just added audio capture device. Anyway, blah. Yeah, Sean.
Wait. Oh yeah, so I shouldn't be watching Twitch, so I should be watching on Discord.
You should be watching on Discord, otherwise you're going to see a delay. So Sean Bloom gave me a bunch of advice. He's been streaming with Day 9, and Brett Duville, my other friend who also streams at Game Dev Podcast and all that stuff, he gave me a bunch of advice. So hopefully this works a little bit. But like, I was surprised that OBS was like, maybe I say it's trivial to use, but also I'm a computer scientist, so your mileage may vary, right? I thought it was pretty straightforward.
We're also playing this, by the way, because I have no idea what this game is, no idea what the genre is, and so I need to dumb it down drastically for me. So I'm hoping you can do that for myself and the viewers.
Zach wrote ... I am the worst coming. So
okay, at least he knows he's the worst.
At least he knows he's the worst. Let's see, is he online yet? No, I do not see him online. So anyway, Zach will be in here in a second.
Yeah. So what the hell is this game, and why are we going to talk about it?
Okay, so this game. Wait, we didn't. Even, well, whatever. This game is a drafting game, right? Let's just call it a drafting game. If you've ever played a collectible card game, you probably know what a drafting game is. You draft cards from a set of other cards. But for the most part, what you're doing in Teamfight Tactics is you're drafting from a set of heroes, and you're trying to assemble a team that you will then put out on a board so that they fight other teams. That's a very vague description, right? But essentially, the game goes through many, many rounds of drafting and fighting. So it's almost as if in like a Magic the Gathering draft, you were drafting cards, then playing a person, then drafting more cards, then playing a person. And those sessions are like 30 seconds long. So you have like a 30-second fight or a 30-second draft followed by a 30-second fight. And then that keeps on going. Zach's
and since you made me download the League client, how does this actually relate to League of Legends?
1 second, let me add Zach into this.
Okay.
Says he's here. There he is. Okay. Hello, Zach.
Hello.
I can hear Nick. Cannot hear Zach yet.
And Zach's going to be live streaming when you. Oh, wait.
No, that's not my. I didn't want to
do that. Hey.
Yeah.
Hey. Nice.
You're streaming live, Zach.
You're jumping straight in. So first of all, yeah. So first of all, if you sound good, the next question is, can you see the stream in Discord? Also, I just got
yes, I can see the stream. Discord.
Cool. So I just got a little bit of echo from you, but maybe are you wearing headphones?
It's been a complicated day.
Oh.
I'm about to be. All right, I think I need to quit. Oh no, hang on. Connect. Sorry, everybody. I'm a jerk.
Well, you're late, but that's that's not a huge shocker.
All right, now I have headphones in, so that's good.
Great.
Yeah.
Ixnot says, as a former Dota player, I'm counting the number of times they are referred to as heroes and not champions. Man, I'm sorry. I've never played a bunch of Dota or League, so I might use it interchangeably. I assume that it's champions.
So how does this relate to League?
It relates to League insofar that it's in the League client, and the champions, are from League. I think Zach's moving his apartment around.
Yeah, sorry. Can you hear me? Is this working?
Yeah,
you sound much better now.
Great. All right, and I can see everything.
Okay, cool. So yes, you have so I just started explaining what this game is in rough strokes, Zach.
Cool. I think I should probably be fine to just hop in because I played that other one.
It's not so much for you, more for Nick.
It's for me because I'm an idiot. I don't know what this is.
For maybe other people on the stream who've never seen this game before.
Yes.
So yeah, you're drafting champions. You are buying them with money. There's an economy in the game, and you're trying to put them out on the board. We'll obviously go through a demo playthrough of me playing the game, and then you'll see what I mean by that.
All right.
And the main element is you are always going to be matched up. Well, there are a couple of exceptions to this where you're matched up against non-player characters, but there will be most rounds where you're matched up against humans. And you're playing against 7 other people. So every time there's a room, there's an 8-player free-for-all, basically. You'll be matched up against another player. The person who loses the team battle loses health, and if you ever go to 0, you're out of the game. Right? That's the basic mechanic. The twist is, and this is why this is from the auto chess genre, is that the team battle is entirely out of your hands. Right? You can put people out on the board. You can level them up by getting 3 of a kind or 9 of a kind. You can go to level 2 and 3. You can get items. You can put items on characters. All these things happen, but once the battle starts, you can still buy people from the shop and do other stuff with them, but you have no influence on the battle. Right? You're basically a bystander getting information from the fight such that you can modify your strategy potentially. Right? So I'm going to go to a different view real quick, and I think in that
let's hop into it.
Yeah, but in this video now, I think I actually have the microphone in here again, so let me delete that. Here. Okay. So now I should just have the regular microphone, and hopefully the audio is still fine. The reason I just did that is because I want to show you just briefly. This is a list of the champions in the game, right? So there's the whole thing here where I'm just going to go over a couple of just basic things. There's a list of the champions in the game. I'm not going to go over them individually or what they do, but they have a thing, and this is something that came straight out of auto chess, which is a genre that's existed not even a year yet, as far as I can tell. And we might go into the history of that genre on the show later. Here you can see their traits, right? So each character or each champion has an origin and a class. With few exceptions, some have multiples, but for the most part, they have an origin and a class. And what this does is, if you have 2 or 3 of the same origin or class on the board, you will usually get a team buff, and that differs between whether they're demons, and you can see here, for example, demons have a 40% chance to burn 20 mana for their target, and I'm not going to go into too much detail on what all this mana and all
one quick note, Andy, is I can see what you're talking about on Twitch, but not on your Discord stream. For us, it doesn't matter, but just so you know.
Oh, you mean the
if I look on Discord.
Oh, Here's why you can't see this. Here's why you can't see this. You can't see this on Discord, because on Discord I'm actually streaming the League client. I'm not just streaming my screen.
Okay. Just telling you so you know that.
Well,
don't worry about it.
You know what? No, I'll worry about it. I'll just stop sharing for you guys, and then I'll just share screen, and it'll just be that. Okay, there you go.
He says, cool.
Okay, there you go. Okay, so now you should see what I'm talking about. Is that correct?
Yes, thank you. I do.
Okay, so, right, they have different traits. 2 glacials, for example, have a chance to stun, and this is too much information to go over right now, right? Because they have origins, they have classes, and then people come up with tier lists, right? There's a very standard thing, so you can take all the champions and put them into these tier lists that rank from E, which is not great, to S, which is amazing, right? The champions also come in 5 kinds of rarity, which is how often they will show up. because when you're drafting from this pool, similar to a Magic draft, you're drafting from a limited set of champions. And another thing you can do is you always pay 2 gold to get a reroll on the 5 champions that are being offered to you, which is this thing that I only later realized is pretty common in board games and maybe not as common in video games. So even some of my favorite board games like King of Tokyo have a mechanic where you can like see new cards if you pay some resource. So it's kind of like that. There's a lot of board game tropes inside this game. And before we go...
Tharsis has that too.
Oh yeah, Tharsis has this too, right? So it's like, it tends to be a thing, again, that I see more in games that are tabletop adjacent, I'd say. So the last thing I'll talk about before we actually go into the game, or before you guys maybe want to ask me 1 or 2 questions before we go into the game, is there are items that you can see here on the screen. And there are only 8 base items, but each of 2 of those combines into a unique super item, right? So that's, I think, makes 64, 32, 36 items, right? So, and they're all listed here. And these items, shocker, you can also put into a tier list. And last but not least, without going into that tier list, there are preferred team compositions that are based on the traits and how they buff the teams, right? And then so they have different teams that they think that some people think are better and worse. And a thing that I find is really cool about Teamfight Tactics, which they are occasionally trying to balance, is that the concept of a carry, or again, this is a terminology from MOBAs, the concept of carry is like a quarterback, right? So you could give one of the members of your team all the items. And hey, Rodrigo, one of my PhD students is with us. So you could give one of your characters, for example, here you'll see that this Shyvana has like a bunch of items on it, and the rest have recommended items, but that's not the optimal, according to theory crafting, is not the optimal team composition. And there are ways to counter that, because obviously everything in these kinds of games is balanced in a very complicated rock, paper, scissors way, so that there's no runaway build that everyone would just do, right? So, and that's what I'm gonna call my brief intro to the game.
My question was going to talk about that sweet $229 TV deal at Best Buy.
Yeah, you can't really.
So they can sponsor our show.
Can't really play TF Tactics.
Yeah, but you moved off the ads
well,
right when I said anyway.
Nick, does this give you
my own joke?
Does this give you any form of insight into what's going on?
No, I think I need to see it. I still have no idea.
Bear Kitty asks, "Hello, is this the new mobile game I've been waiting for?" Sorry to distract. LOL. No, this is not the new. I don't know if there's any effort on the side of the developer here to put this on mobile. But if you want to play a mobile version of this, Dota Underlords has a mobile version, and it's really good. And also, without going into too much detail about that, I can confidently say that Dota Underlords is a much simpler and gentler introduction to this genre. But given the popularity of this game right now, and the fact that most of the designers that I talk to are really into this, we've kind of all gravitated towards Teamfight Tactics. And there's a lot of really strong... Oh, go ahead, Zach.
Oh, I was just going to say, so I played a little bit of Dota Underlords, and I really liked it, and I was really turned off by the whole genre. It's very weird. It's like a very strange thing to learn, because it's just like 10,000 pieces of information and you don't know the answers to any of them.
Right.
But the thing, at least is true about Dota Underlords, I don't know if it's true about this, is that like to some degree the low level play is very much slot machiney. It's like got this like component of like I've gotten in second, you know, even though I'm pretty horrible at Dota Underlords, but like sometimes you just get the right stuff, and so the process of learning it is like you're trying to just like get the tiniest grip on the simplest piece of information. Like nothing makes sense, and you're just trying to find anything, like purchase on just anything that would make any sense. But while you're like, that seems like it would be really stressful. But the thing that I think, Andy, I think you told me this early on, which I really liked, was just that like don't worry if you're losing, because like mechanically you can lose a lot of early matches and it doesn't matter, and then later you just like have the money to like do all of this stuff, and suddenly then like the whole thing changes and suddenly you have the composition you want and you're winning. And so that like idea really kind of resonates into the entire core of the
Right.
experience, where like you're trying desperately to understand anything about it, but at the same time it's not stressful because losing is okay, and then sometimes you magically just start winning, and it
Right.
just it feels like a very different kind of game to learn, and I found it to be really relaxing in a very weird way.
That's interesting because that's definitely not well, it's not the experience that some people have, right? So Bear Kitty in the chat right now is saying, I agree with that guy talking now. So that's Zach. It's Zach Gage. Feels weird, and I ultimately feel powerless, right? So the learning curve is extremely steep, right? So what you just said, Zach, is so true for Teamfight Tactics, because you can literally, and this is amazing, you can go down to 1 health. So you start at 100. I have had games, multiple games, not just one, and I've played like maybe 50, where you can go down to 1 or 2 health. At suddenly at 2 health, your whole composition comes together, right? So you've been losing. You get money for a losing streak. That's a whole other detail I left out. And suddenly you get that item that fits your composition perfectly, and you sweep the game and you win, right? So these things can happen, but of course, if you don't have that experience, you might as well also just get to 1 health and just die, right? And then you feel like, I have no idea what just happened. And the game doesn't really do an amazing job of trying to give that information to you. So it's very obtuse that way, right?
Yeah, but I think it's also like it's hard to get an eighth. Like if you're, even if you don't know what you're doing at the beginning, it's like very easy to land sort of like, like get in 5th or get in 6th.
Yes.
Like if you get an 8th, it's like almost wonderful because you learn something,
Right.
because you've done so horrifically bad that like you somehow lost an 8th. Like I felt like I had a lot of games of Underlords where it would be like I had some ability that I got that like gave a special thing to like trolls.
Right.
And I was like, what are trolls? Which of these characters are trolls? Like nothing, like they have symbols, and the symbols you can find out what they say on one screen, but on another screen you only have the symbols, and like you spend all of your planning time trying to like figure out which freaking characters are trolls. And it's like, but somehow I found that like that process was actually very relaxing,
Mm-hmm.
because somehow while you're trying to learn even the most basic stupid thing, like you're still getting in 5th
Right.
or 4th,
So
or like then you like get 1 hero and then you're in 3rd and you're like, oh, okay, I guess I'm not terrible.
have you played Teamfight Tactics yet?
No, is it like very intense and different?
It's so I find that in Dota Underlords, it's easier to get like a pretty good early composition that sort of carries you up to a point where people start dropping out and you come in 5th, right? I have had games in Teamfight Tactics where I've been like, wow, this is going amazing. I'm definitely coming in top 4, right? And I came in 8th because suddenly I was like, man, I am not finding the pieces I need to pull this together right now.
But you're also
Right.
like, there's MMR in this, so
Yeah, so I'm
with
playing. Yeah,
people.
yeah, it's true. It's true. I'm playing in. If I was playing in bronze or iron or whatever those other places are, then yeah, I'm playing in gold right now.
What is
Right,
what is
that's what I'm
MMR?
saying. Is like I think that there is actually something really weirdly chill about the process of learning these games.
Right. Nick,
What is
Nick, it's matchmaking ranking. So it's like
Oh, yeah,
it's like
sorry.
it's like
Game
elo
design.
score in chess. Right?
Okay.
It's like how you start, like Halo 3 had it. Most
Yeah.
modern matchmaking games have it. It's we use jargon here as well. So we'll try our best to not use too much jargon.
Yeah, it just means the game is trying to like matchmake you again.
Right. Well, again, that only
It's
happens
sort
if
of
you're playing
as good as-
ranked. So we're not gonna today when we play our game. I'm not gonna. Well, maybe I'll play ranked. We'll see. So just to
Yeah,
follow up on the chat, Matron Bias says the satisfaction of not entirely sucking in one single round is enough to keep me coming back, even if you suck in every other round. That's true. I mean, I can say that's true for me as well. But again, with the feedback loop, the problem I had initially was, and it's the same problem I have with like spectating League of Legends, is when the team fights start, they're running at such a breakneck pace that when someone fires off their ultimate, which, just for the record, also exists in this game, and I'll get to that when we start the game. I don't even know whose ultimate is firing off, so I don't know exactly what's going on, and as a result, I don't get enough information to fix my mistakes. But over time, as we all, and again, this is a game design thing, right? Memorization is a blessing and a curse in game design, right? It somehow means that whatever you have is consumable because you potentially at some point memorize the whole thing, but it also provides a pretty cool learning curve for people who just keep on playing the game, right? And it's the holy grail to make the game that basically has one set of things and just never needs to be updated, and the meta just shifts around magically, right? And people get better in different ways. And I know for a fact that in Teamfight Tactics and in various other games of this genre, and most famously, obviously, Magic the Gathering, they just put in they update the sets, right? They put in new cards, they put in new items, they put in new champions, and that way it stays fresh, because otherwise it feels like potentially the meta could steer into a direction again where people come up with dominant strategies and then it becomes boring, right? And I mean, one could also famously point to StarCraft and StarCraft 2 as like the high watermark of games where the developers have continuously been patching the game up to a point where they make sure that all the different races in the game are equally balanced so that no build is better than the other. And that's like, this is getting too technical now, right? But that's like, not that it's non-transitive, right? It's rock, paper, scissors. It's not like there is a strategy that is dominant over everything else, and in that way it stays fresh. But now, okay, so now I'll stop with the general game design talk. And I don't know, Nick, do you have any? Is that a lot of that's a lot of information, right? But like, do you get the general gist of what's going on here?
Let's start the game.
You're sure you don't have another general question that I could answer right? Because here's the thing: once I start the game, I'm going to be much more distracted, right?
That's fine. It's hard having like no context for it at all. So
I think
Zach, yeah, maybe you can.
The one thing I would say about this that I think will probably help you and maybe anyone else who's trying to learn is that like a lot of times in games, you're like struggling with like if you get a really bad hand in poker, the thing that you need to know in poker is that like everybody else probably also got a really bad hand. And so if you play it as if like, oh, I'm the only person who got this bad hand, you'll have a miserable time. But once you like recognize that you need to play it as if you understand that also everybody else probably got a really bad hand, then you're playing poker. And I found, at least with Underlords, but it's probably true for this too, is that you need, like, you're not going to understand anything, but like you need to play it understanding that everybody you're playing against also doesn't understand anything.
Right.
And that will make it like way chiller, because then suddenly it's not like all these people who are just like aggressively owning you. It's more like, yeah, this is a random disaster for everybody, and I'm just going to try to get what I can get out of it so that I can like figure out how to play.
I couldn't emphasize that more, right? It's one of those games that has like a pretty high skill ceiling, but you can kind of get a lot out of it if you let the matchmaking put you up against other people who are just playing it casually and aren't like reading blogs and listening to podcasts like crazy people like me do, right? Where I'm like, oh, there's going to be a new item and it's going to be best on this character, on this champion. Right, so you don't have to engage with it at that level, and honestly, I think just by playing it, you get the general idea of what's going on. On the other hand, it's pretty fast, even though you're not really playing anything in real time, so there's no like micro like in a real time strategy game. You have to make decisions all the time about who you're going to buy and how you're going to manage your economy, and that's not trivial to do in 30 seconds. When I tell people about the game, they're like, 30 seconds, that's a lot of time to do all this stuff, and I'm like, yeah, if you're not 49 years old, right? For me, it gets. I love doing it, but it's like it's practice, right? It's a practice of like learning the characters and the heroes, and not champions, not characters, not heroes. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
that makes sense as part of the appeal, at least, or like giving you something to keep in mind early on.
Right. Okay. So the next thing I'm going to do now here in Teamfight Tactics, I'm going to play the game. These in-game audio sounds of the client, I can't actually really control very well, so I'm just going to ignore that for now. But then in the game, I can, if anyone in the chat says that the audio of the game is too loud, too high, I can always turn that down. So you'll see here in Teamfight Tactics, I have normal and ranked. So if I do normal, I'm just going to match up with anyone. And if I do ranked, I'll match up with people that are in my skill level. So I'm just, so that I'm less stressed, I'm going to put it to normal for now, because not that I really care about my rank too much, but I'll just keep it there for now, and later on I might change that. So confirm that.
And then remind me, how many people are you playing against?
I'm playing at 7. So
Okay.
if
I
enough
see.
people
That's
are
right.
interested later on, but I'm not receiving any friend requests, so I assume that's not the case yet. I could make a lobby with 7 other people,
Right.
but you know, maybe you guys want to play it, so it's possible. That's all I'm saying.
Do you? Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Do you want to be streaming this like just the client now?
No. So what's going to happen is this is going to turn into full screen, and then it'll just cover up.
Okay.
It'll cover up the browser. Later on, I might alt tab to the browser just to show, like, oh, now I'm going for nobles, and here's what the nobles do and stuff like that. Or maybe not. We'll see. So let's find a match. Yeah, I'm assuming that this audio is really, really loud, but probably the in-game stuff later on will not be as bad.
A new Bon Iver album is out.
It's been out for like
Just reading all
it's
that.
been out for a
I
month.
know, I'm just reading all your pop-up ads.
Right. Okay, so here are the other people who I'm going to be playing against. So one thing I'll say why this is loading is that, well, I also have this night TF Tactics overlay. While this is loading, there are rounds that are shared draft, right, where you don't just get your little shop of I'm doing this at the bottom of the screen. You get this little shop of 5 champions, where they're all in a carousel, and that's how the game starts. So you see that right now, right? So we're basically running around this carousel, picking up one of these champions each, and it's weird. Because if you start the game and you've never played it before, and this is what you see for the first time on the screen, it's like, what am I supposed to be doing? So that was my experience of playing the game for the first time. So I just got some champion here, happens to be Shen, right, who is a ninja blade master, and I'm going to put him out on the board. And I'm already getting the impression that the audio is pretty loud, so I'm going to turn the master volume down to like 50 and hope that that's better. So I'm doing nothing right now, right? So Shen's just attacking these non-player characters, and now this character dropped an item, so I can walk around here with my little legend and grab that. Turns out it's not an item, it's just money. That's always a little bit of a letdown, because I prefer it would be an item. Okay, so now yes, go
does the
ahead.
avatar that you chose mean anything, or is it just aesthetic?
It's just aesthetic. And we can get into that after the game. So I'm going to do a thing that's pretty common, and I'm going to sell this first hero, this champion, get the item off of it, and just buy all the 5 champions that are in the shop at the bottom, because they're all 1 cost in the beginning. I don't know if it's visible, but I have this little helper down here that actually tells me the likelihood of level 1, 2... Oh, I'm not putting anyone out. It's nice here. It puts out 2 at random. And honestly, against the NPCs, it doesn't matter. So down here, you'll see the likelihood of heroes of the different quality class pop up in the shop in any given round. Let's see what that... Still just money. That's not fantastic. Because what I'm trying to do here early on in the game is I'm not really looking for team composition. I'm trying to get characters or these heroes leveled up. And it could not possibly be worse. Okay, Gangplank is good.
So one of your heroes survived and went back. So does that mean they leveled up, and the other
They
one?
do
is
not.
just
No,
dead?
no, they don't level up. They only level up if I ever get 3 of a kind. Going back is just they won the battle and then they come back to my board. Right?
And the other one that died is just gone.
No, they're not gone. They're
Oh.
all back down. They all come back to the
all back
board. Yeah, there's no gone. There's no gone in between
So
matches.
if it's not okay,
They're not. They don't die. They die in a match. They come back after
Yeah.
the match. Okay.
And remind me of the ultimate goal of both this round and high level.
Beat the other team. The ultimate
Like
goal.
kill.
So the ultimate goal of these. So okay, now comes the first round where I'm going to be matched up randomly against one of the other 7 players that you can see on the right side of the screen. Right.
Yeah.
So I'm still trying painstakingly here, honestly, to level up my team, but it's really not coming together. I'll explain what I'm doing in a second. So I'm just putting creatures or champions out on the board, trying to figure out what I can buy down here. I have 0 gold right now, but I can always take one of my champions and drag it down here to sell it if I need more gold. Over here on the left in the bottom left corner, you see that I have 3 items. Right? I'm not putting them on anyone here yet because I don't really know what I'm building yet. Now I'm fighting SS Wolf Dragon 5, right? And it's not going too well. Well, it might still go well. We'll see what's happening.
So sorry, when you said like beat the other person, you're killing all. Like what is beating them involved?
Well, killing. So right now I'm probably gonna lose this. Well, maybe not. Let's see. So I'm the dude who has the close. Oh, so you see I won that round, and Wolf Dragon took damage, but now all my heroes, all my champions come back, right? So it just resets.
Okay, so he took damage as the player, not as the individual characters. Really.
Exactly. Okay. So again, I'm still trying to like get.
Where is his damage?
So I just fought SS Wolf Dragon. If you look on the right, you'll see that there's SS Wolf Dragon 97. So it says the opponent takes damage equivalent to the number of your champions that survive and the levels they are at. Right?
I see. Got it.
So if you like just basically give them, like, if you beat all of them and all of your champions survive, they take a lot of damage. Right?
Weird.
So the other thing I'll say right now in the off is, see that little blue line underneath each of the champions that's underneath the green line?
Yeah.
That's your mana. If that ever goes all the way up, then your champion gets their ultimate. You're also trying to get your champion's ultimate. Okay, so now for the first time, I'm gonna buy these 2 Blitzcranks here. I have one in my little shelf down here, which is the bench. The second I buy the third one, Blitzcrank goes up to a level 3. Right, so now I'm gonna put in Blitzcrank, level 2. Sorry, not level 3. I'm gonna put him in because he's a strong character. He starts off at 100 mana, and when his ultimate goes off, he just pulls someone in with his robot arm and stuns the hero. So that's a thing you'll see happen right away at the beginning now. Probably going to pull in this character up here. Yep. Stun it and do a lot of damage. So the idea of that is that it pulls in strong back row champions and gets them out of the fight pretty fast. But if you look closely right now, it didn't actually work. Because it looks like pretty obvious that I'm going to be losing this round. Yep. So now I took damage.
You're just choosing where your dudes are placed, but then once it starts, you're not actually interacting with the battle at all.
I am not. But I'm constantly trying to figure out how to manage the team. So I'm like the coach.
Yeah.
Or the manager. I'm not even the coach. Right?
Matron Boy said, "My God, this is so strange."
Yeah. I fully agree.
Yeah.
So again,
yeah, sorry, go ahead.
This is a shared draft. I'm going to get 3rd pick because I'm in 4th place. Right? So it's always 2 people get to run out of their little circle here and then get to pick one of the champions.
This is very silly.
No, this is the part that a lot of people who play the game and like it think that it's a little bit weird. Right?
This is like when you look up like video games in the dictionary, it's just got this screenshot where it's just like inexplicable.
No, this is... The UI of this is also a little bit problematic because you basically have to know the hero. You have to know all the champions and you have to know all the items. Okay, what's going on here? So now I'm starting to get into it. So now you'll see so first of all, I can level up Camille to level 2. The next thing is that your economy, right? If you look down here, I can buy XP. You get 2 XP every round, but I can spend 4 gold to get 4 XP, which I'm going to do now to get to the next level. Because the number, your level, which is 5 for me right now, determines how many champions you can have on the board, right? So I just leveled up with money so that I could put out an extra champion. And my analogy for that in game design terms is usually like Dark Souls, right? Because in Dark Souls, you can use the souls that you collect both as ways to buy items and also to level up your hero. Right.
Zach, because you played Underlords, like, is this like fairly explicable for you?
The carousel is not.
The carousel is definitely, I'll agree, is the weirdest part, right?
But otherwise the rounds are similar.
Yeah, and the creatures, like one of the things that I found really irritating about this game that Andy would tell you I complained to him about is that like the characters don't really have anything to do with what they do, and
Mhm.
like the design has no
They,
real
I've
meaning.
heard from people who play a league that that they a little bit do, but not really, right? I
Yeah, they
mean,
do through the filter of league, where also
yeah,
nothing means
right,
anything.
right. Well, I mean,
Like
if you look here, my Lucian, well, he's dead. He's not dead yet, right now.
it's
He's a
not like
gunslinger, and he's
Pokemon
in the
where
back.
like all the fire things are red and or on fire. It's
Yeah.
like not like that at all. And
Yeah.
like things that like their
Right.
special abilities don't always come from them. Like
Right.
like or at least that's what's very true about Underlords.
Right.
So that all is very similar. But I mean I think part of it is you just kinda like I
Right.
will say there is some design seems a little bit clearer outside of these weird
Okay, so now we're
carousel things.
two things before we go on. So now we're in a round with. I'm gonna get this. We're in a round with NPCs again. So these happen regularly that you fight non-player characters, and that's just so you can like get better items, right? Because they always, not always, sometimes they just drop money, but you can use that to get better items. So what I'm gonna do now for the first time is I'm gonna take two items and combine them on this Lucian. That's a static shiv. It's no longer the best item, but now you're going to see every now and then lightning jump from one character, one enemy to the next, and that's what that item does, right? And it's really strong, right? It basically gives you like a huge boost. And unlike other games, and you know, Zach, you've played a lot of, or you've played some Dota Underlords, items are much more critical in this game over Underlords, I believe.
Right, you can't
Right.
take them off your characters.
You
right?
cannot. This is akin to like the original auto chest, right? So the only way to get the items off the character is to sell the character, right? If you,
Oh, then you get the item back.
then you get the item back, right?
Oh,
Even
so
if
you
it
can
even
kinda get it
even
back.
if it's you can get it back, but you have to sell the character, which is potentially a detriment, right?
So also in this, is it the same where like you get the same amount of gold back for the character that you spent on it?
You do. So I'm just gonna
Right,
go
so
on.
you kind
and-
of also want to like early game buy a lot of characters because it doesn't hurt you.
Exactly. So another thing I haven't mentioned yet in the long line of things is that every 10 gold I have at the end of the round, I get 1 gold interest, right? Which is a thing that is another awkward thing that just is genius, right? Because it allows for an economy-based strategy that maybe otherwise wouldn't be possible.
Right, but it also means that like if you have like 13 gold, you may as well spend that like 3
Exactly.
on characters that like will just sit on your thing that you are keeping other people from getting or that you might want.
100%. 100%. You would definitely do that as long as you have space on your bench, or can make space on your bench, right? All these things are like interesting limited resources. So I'm
Yeah, I think
paying.
in terms of like all of the. Oh, I'm sorry, Andy. You.
Well,
you
the thing
talk
is,
about it all.
I'm paying attention. I'm not actually paying attention to the game at all, and it doesn't really matter. I mean, I'm still doing okay, but what you'll notice is because my composition is not really amazing. So over here on the left, you see the traits, right? So I do have 2 gunslingers, which, as you can see here from the tooltip box, which I think that's actually pretty good in this game, says that they have a 50% chance of attacking extra enemies. But you'll also see I have a bunch of other traits here that I am close to but not quite have yet, which is not great. Right? I'm actually trying to make those work.
But I think that's the area where like I think one thing that's on like a high end strategy level, one of my favorite rules in this game is this idea that like you're getting interest, but if you have extra money over where your interest line would be, then you can like counter draft sort of or like
Right.
draft for the future. That I think is so cool, and it's such an interesting twist on like like my
Right.
previous experience was like with like magic drafting, where if you counter pick someone, you're not getting anything in return. Like you're
Right.
sacrificing your pick to do a counter pick. But in this game, you don't have to sacrifice your pick to do a counter pick because
True.
you sort of like are constantly being fed the weird little extra. Like your counter picks are just with your change, basically, which I think is really cool. But then on the simple side, like that list on the left of like all of the different qualities and like the upgrades, my approach in Underlords, which I really enjoyed, was just to be like, I pick a couple creatures at the beginning, and then it's like, oh, I guess I have some Blade Masters. I'm gonna figure out how to get 3 Blade Masters,
Right.
and then I'll see what that's like. Like maybe that's powerful, or maybe it sucks. I don't know.
Yeah.
But like, I'm just gonna play this game as like I'm just gonna survive and sort of like look at the cards that I'm being dealt and try to like do like a match 3 basically, and not even really worry about like which groups are better than which other groups, because like I don't even know what the groups do. I don't know what it means to have a 50%
Right.
chance to get an extra shot.
So
Like,
I
I
think
don't know fundamentally.
I think
how
that's
that
the
feels.
probably the best approach. The only thing I'd put above that is like in this game is leveling. Like I think getting to level 2 characters or champions by having 3 of a kind, which is another.
Right, no, that's sorry. Yes. The leveling up is part of that though, because it's like you're trying to get multiple classes, but you're also trying to like level your people.
I'm trying to see what I have.
Matron Boy says the drafting bit's so bizarre, it's like some weird pagan ritual.
Yeah, it totally is. This doesn't make any sense.
And then Taylor Anderson said because none of the champions are displayed in the UI, it's just memorization. Yeah, that's.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's stupid, man.
It also.
Someone's gonna come around and make a really accessible version of this.
Well, I mean, I kind of feel like Dota Underlords is an accessible version of this, right? Because no. So the thing that I've been doing, by the way, that I'm not telling anyone right now, is every now and then I'm re-rolling the offerings in the shop. But you'll see if I do that, right, it costs me 2 gold. Sometimes it's great, like just now I actually got a level 2 character out of it. But sometimes it's just a slot machine that you can very easily, or at least if you're me, you can very easily go on tilt on. Right? We're just like, oh, I'm not getting the right character. I'm just going to keep on hitting reroll, and then you just like go into the tank with your economy, and that is a sure shot way to lose the game, right? Knowing when and how often to reroll, I'd say is maybe one of the most critical skills in the game. Anyway, I just wanted to put that out there because it's a thing I don't think I've mentioned yet.
Andy, here's why this game isn't accessible. You have 3 characters with swords and 1 character with swords for legs, but you only have 2 Blade Masters. Which 2 sword guys are Blade Masters? That doesn't make any sense. Everybody with a sword should be a Blade Master. It'd be so easy.
Oh no, I agree with you.
And that's someone's gonna like make a game that pares down all this weird items, like removes items and but still has a balanced game and just focuses on like getting triples and doubles of things.
I think
like,
you're right.
Sounds like a Zach Edge challenge.
I wish I could. I'm not that smart with this.
Oh, come on! Don't sell yourself short. Like we could. I mean, not that we are going to make a Teamfight Tactics competitor, but maybe we should.
I think right now you two are committing to collaborating on a Teamfight Tactics competitor.
So now the thing. So okay, I'd like to point out a thing that just happened. So my character here has 2 X's right now. So the other team has a trait called Hextech that's relatively new, and what it does is throws a bomb that disables my items for 7 seconds. Basically, they made this entire new trait up as a reaction to the game being very, very item heavy, right, and very carry and quarterback heavy. They added in a trait such that if someone builds that team composition, you will probably have a hard time if you put all your items on one person. Just to throw some more complexity into the mix. Right.
So like also like your little people who you're buying, why is it a weird 2D picture that doesn't look anything like the actual people?
Matron Boy says 1 Blade Master can only tell the truth, the other has swords for legs. Which do you pick?
Yeah, which 2 of 4 are they?
Very good.
Anyway. Okay, so let's roll. Oh, okay, cool. So I just got a level 2 Garen.
Is he a Blade Master?
He's a noble knight. You know, Zach. Noble knights, like in the
right,
like in all the noble knights things, which is great because
surely that very noble elf is also not.
Yes. What just happened is I got so it turns out that this object that I can now combine called a Morellonomicon.
What?
So what? Okay, you're not helping here. What this item does is it makes spells burn, right? So if I put this on Garen has that spin move. I don't know if you remember this. And I'm also going to do something pretty crazy here that I don't know if it's a smart move, but I'm actually going to use a lot of money to level up and put in my Garen. So this guy has a spin move as his ultimate, and when that hits characters now and it hits multiples, it will hurt them and burn them over multiple seconds. And that's what this item on Garen does. But it's a combined item out of 2 other items that I got earlier. And as I say the words, I'm very aware of the fact that it's inscrutable.
Did you explain how the mana works?
I didn't explain how it comes to be, but I explained what it does. So when your champions do damage, then their mana bar goes up. And when the mana bar hits full, then the champion uses their ultimate, right? Which is, you might have just seen that big purple circle. That was my opponent's ultimate. That is a big area of effect spell. And you'll notice how I'm trying to not use AoE, right? People, if you listen to other people talk, they'll say AoE. It's an area of effect spell that just does damage to multiple people. But again, the thing that's happening here is that my composition is not coming together, right? I still only have gunslingers.
Seems like you're doing pretty well, though. You're second, right?
I'm third.
Third.
Right, if you look up in the upper right corner here, I'm third.
Oh, some of it's covered for me with Discord icons, but got it.
So, let's see. I'm also not paying attention to who I'm fighting here. Fighting against the person who's third last. But that person happens to also have a level 3 character. But that didn't... Okay, so I still won that. So one of the things that's terrible is my comp is not coming together. Sorry, my team composition is not coming together. And also I never managed to level up Lucian, who's carrying the most items. So I should probably, if I was paying attention, I should probably get rid of Lucian and put those items on my Ashe, which is a much stronger character right now. I'm probably doing... I can always see who's doing a lot of damage. Lucian is actually doing a ton of damage, but the reason he's doing a lot of damage... Okay, let's go Blade Masters and get Draven. Actually, maybe let's just kill this guy, put out the Draven, and put both items on Draven. Draven's really strong. Now I have Blade Masters. I did lose Gunslingers, though, but I don't think that's a huge detriment right now. Zach, you wanted to ask a question?
Which is your other gunslinger character?
Turns out Gangplank. So this is what I said earlier, right? So some of them have, similar to Dota Underlords, some have 3 traits, right? So Gangplank is a pirate Blade Master gunslinger, which I think is a little bit on brand for pirates, but also you can't really see the ability. Yeah, this is still not going too well. So I just lost to Follow the Light, and Follow the Light is in second place. Okay, it's always a bad sign when people who are in last place start beating you. So I'm gonna again look what do I have any items on my board? I have 2 Negatron cloaks. They combine. If I could get a spatula, that would be amazing. If I could get a sword, that would be amazing. So let's see if that's possible. So there's no spatulas. There's a sword on this character. Nope. So yeah, balancing feedback loop. I'm not going to get the stuff that I want because I get to pick last because I'm high up in the loop. So the thing that the carousel does really good is that balancing feedback loop, right? That if you're in the lead, you get to pick last. And from, like, I would say 95% of the time when you're in that carousel, it's about the item and less about the actual champion that you're getting, right? Because you're trying to get like good items. Well, not only, right? You're also trying to get a good composition, but you're probably trying to get good items on your champions. Shapeshifters are strong right now, but it's not coming together. Like, I literally have no other shapeshifters, and I'm kind of hate drafting right now. So Shyvana is extremely strong currently in the meta, and if anyone else is going shapeshifters, they're probably having a harder time leveling that champion up right now.
Why didn't you pick up Gangplank?
Because I already have a level 2 Gangplank, and getting to level 3 requires 6 more Gangplanks.
Right, I didn't realize he was level 2 because this game is well designed visually.
So if you look at the champions that are in the game, you'll see that if they have a silver icon, or a bronze, or a gold icon. So these right now, the 4 that are still on the board for my opponent, they all have a silver icon. That means they're all level 2. right?
Gotcha. Cool. Okay.
That's basically it. And again, not the best way. I don't really.
What are those things chilling on the side above your character?
Chilling on the side above my
Those
character.
like gold things right above your character. On the left.
Oh.
On the left.
Oh, that's signaling to my opponent that that my econ right now is at least 20. Right? So if I was at 30, I'd have 3 of those.
Those are 10 each.
Yeah. So you can't see how much money your opponent has exactly, but you can definitely see which 10s they are in. Right? So this opponent has gone down to 0, right? They've just used everything. But also they're right behind me in the ladder. And again, I'm pretty sure. So I'm not coming in 8th, right? Because Wolf Dragon's already out. So you'll see on the right that one of my opponents already has 0 health. So they're just out of the game. Which, honestly, probably going to happen to me in about 3 rounds if I don't start figuring out how to make the best out of this. I might go Brawlers because I do have a Vi. I have 2 of these, this Champion Vi right here that's pretty strong. If I can get a 3rd, which turns out I cannot. But also
explain this spatula thing.
Oh, so the spatula. So if you look on the bottom left here, the spatula is one of the 8 base items, and yes, it's called a spatula. What the spatula does with most combinations of other items is make the hero also a glacial or also another trait. So if you want to get the team buff or the trait buff, you could do that. And usually they also give you like a base ability, like this frozen mallet here on the bottom left gives you plus 400 health. But the most powerful item currently is a thing called the Runan's Hurricane, right? And that one just doubles or basically mirrors the damage of the hero that wears it. But yeah, it's a spatula. Man, now I have 2 tiers and 2 cloaks. What does that actually combine to? It combines to a Hush, which is a thing that is a 33% chance on hit to prevent the enemy champion from gaining mana, which is strong. Ooh, Karthus is amazing, but I'm not playing sorcerers. So just because, like, what would I get here? Got another belt. That doesn't really, well, actually the belt's not bad. Let's put this and this here, and also put a Hush on this guy. Maybe not the best items I've ever done, but whatever. We're losing, so I might as well start stacking items on Garen. But of course, Garen... Oh, no. I thought my opponent would have Hextech and, like, nullify the items. That didn't actually happen. But, yeah, this is not... this is not coming together at all. So you'll see now that because my opponent had a ton of survivors, I'm going down to, like, 9 health. Yeah, no. So you'll see that even though I was, like, 3rd, 2nd... This is what I meant earlier. If your composition doesn't come together or you can't swing it... And, I'm trying to like maintain the chat and talk to you guys and all that stuff, and I'm also not amazing at the game, let's just face it. So now I'm just gonna panic attack and roll until I get maybe a character or a champion down here that would fit my composition well. Like, I'm still trying to level up Vi, but also it's not working at all, so I'm just gonna again freak out and just buy a bunch of XP so I can put her in. Right, so now I both got Hextech and Brawler on the left. So first of all, the Hextech will hopefully disable this super powerful Lucian. It did. That's good. I still think I'm going to lose this, but let's see. Because yeah, this is yeah. So now I'm out of the game, right? So even though I just managed to do something, that's going to put me down to 0. And I will have gone out of the game in 6th place. Okay, not terrible. And now what you can do in this situation is you can keep watching, which, if you're playing with friends, you'll... Over here on the right, you can just click on the different portraits, and it'll take you to the board of the different player. That's also shown on the bottom right, but you can't see that on the stream right now because it's covered by my mug. And you can also use the 1 and 2 keys to just... basically tab through all the available boards to see what the different people are playing. My board's empty because I'm out. So
Taylor Anderson was giving you some tips, but it's too late.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry,
So
Taylor.
that at this point, the problem is that you have very little comps going, 3 items per champ. But also all level 1 items can be comboed with another item, so it's more like 6.
Yeah, exactly. So that's just Taylor Anderson giving a bunch of tips on how to like, and they weren't, to be clear, they were not really strong comps, right? So let me just go to this client scene. Like, I don't think they were particularly good. So this is the after game thing, right? It'll just show you, oh yeah, you came in 6th. Here's what the other team compositions look like. And you'll see that some of them are even like, even though I was leveled up more, because the top player had like just a really strong composition. Like, I can tell you this is the shapeshifter comp that is just like currently pretty dominant, I think, when it comes together, and also a thing of beauty when you see it come together. And this person is in first place, even though they're only playing with 6 champions on the board, which is another thing that's just, it's kind of cool that you don't. There's multiple paths to victory in this game, which is another thing that we tend to think of very highly in game design. I don't really know why I went to that scene, because I actually wanted to show another thing. So I have this thing installed called TF Tactics that shows you a bunch of data about the game, but also shows you your match history. And just to show you, here's my match history, right? Like, in the last 10 matches, I've come in 7th, 8th, 7th, 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 7, which, wow, was that a terrible streak. And then 4-1-2, and then 8-6, right? So it's totally possible in this game to have like a really bad dry spell because you're trying to do a new thing. Like, sometimes you're just being very experimental and you want to try, oh, what would happen if I had 3 Blade Masters or something? Like, is that really good? And then you do it and you realize it's not coming together, right? If you want to...
But you're not playing ranked, so it doesn't really matter, right?
Well, right now, so here's my thing about ranked. There's a whole thing that we call ladder anxiety, which is once you get up in the ranks, you feel like you don't want to drop back down, because ranked also means that if you lose games, you lose rank. And then you're like, I'd rather stay up there. I try to just ignore that, because basically what laddering and ranking is doing is putting me in the right spot for my skill at the time. And that way I'm usually getting an on average, in a best case scenario, 50-50 win-loss win rate, right? I'm coming in around the 4 or 5 slot on average, right? Which is kind of where you want to be, in my opinion, right? I'm sure other people think differently about this, but I would like to be in a place where I'm not getting entirely stomped, but I'm not also dominating. Like, I want to have the experience of learning from the people who are better, but also like maybe people are like, the MMRs or matchmaking ranking is not putting them in the right spot. Taylor Anderson is, I find a lot that it's hard for me to venture. I found that it is hard for me to venture outside my own comps and ranked. I could not agree more, right? And it keeps on going, like the comps I've won with before. So I have a soft spot for Lucian, for that gunslinger that I sold in the end because I couldn't level him up, because it just worked for me a lot. It can be and yeah, just to say something about Lucian briefly, if you actually look at the tier list for best champions, Lucian's A tier, right? So Lucian had recommended items are not Static Shiv, right? So that was probably not a super smart move, but it's a good character. And another thing that I think I can say about this is there are certain styles of team compositions that I enjoy watching more than others. Right, so there's a lot of stuff that I'm just like, oh yeah, I've played this composition a couple of times. I kind of know how to put it together. I know what kind of items I'm trying to build so that the composition may work out. One thing I didn't talk about all just now, right, because it's already a lot of information to take in, is once you get better at the game, and maybe Zach, you've experienced this in Dota Underlords. Once you get better at the game, you start looking at the other player boards, because you want to get a sense of what the other players are going for. Because every time you hit reroll on the shop, it's just taking a big bag of champions that is the same bag for everyone, shaking it, and putting 5 in your shop. So just by chance, right, if other players are going for gunslingers or for nobles, and someone already has like a really strong nobles composition, you're probably going to lose the game if you're going for nobles, right? So, but that requires another amount of attention. So similar to a lot of other games that I enjoy tremendously that are when they're competitive, or even single player games, right? There's always an attention economy. It's always how much time do you have to dedicate towards a certain aspect of the game. And how well have the designers tweaked that such that varying skills and varying styles of players have a good experience in figuring out what that means for them, right? And that, but at the same time, I cannot separate the fact that I have a certain preference for certain traits that I like more, because maybe that's also the kind of hero that I would roll in a role-playing game. So I can't, there's a lot of mechanics going on, but I can't separate that entirely from the fact that there's a certain aesthetic choice, right? So, questions. Nick, are you sufficiently overwhelmed?
Yes. I even at a very high level, I appreciated just like watching a bit and understanding even a little bit of what you were doing. That's helpful, even if none of the specifics mattered as much up front.
Right.
So I think even like understanding maybe even what the words auto chess mean.
I can gladly say something about that.
It gives me more context for that name even, which is helpful.
Yeah, so I came to a game called Dota Auto Chess I'm going to say it was January of this year, right? And it started as a Dota 2 mod, right? And this, I think, relatively small indie studio from China made a game that I understand later, is based off of a much older mod called Pokemon Battle or something like that, where you're doing basically that, right? The principle is exactly the same. There are something like 55 heroes in the game. Of course, in that game, they're all based off of the Dota heroes. And you're doing the same thing. You're buying heroes, you're putting them out on the board. It doesn't have that shared draft. But it came out around the same time, if I'm not mistaken, that Artifact came out, like another big Valve release, right? Which is a 2-player card game. Artifact didn't do well in the marketplace for numerous reasons that I could go into, but I don't think we're talking about Artifact. And Auto Chess took off in a really big style. Like, it was super popular. It was streamed a lot on Twitch. Had a really weird way of making, weird way. The way that everything makes money now is cosmetics. So you could buy what the equivalent of what is on My Little Legend, like that little character that's like supposedly picking up the stuff and everything. That's purely cosmetic. That game just took off. And without going into too much detail, because honestly I don't know the details exactly, I think Valve wanted them to make that game for them and wanted to pull them into the fold, because that's a thing that Valve has a history of doing. Portal started off as an Arbacular drop from a team of students at DigiPen, and then parts of the stuff that went into Portal 2 was actually in Tag: The Power of Paint, which I think was a student award winner at the IGF in 2009. So they do that, but I think they want the team from Drodo basically said, nope, we're working on this on our own. We really enjoy doing it, and they put out Auto Chess, right? There's a mobile version of Auto Chess that you can play on your cell phone that is available right now, and they announced that they're going to put out the game in the future on PCs with the Epic Game Store. In parallel, Valve made their own version, right? They basically said, well, if you're not going to make it, we're going to make it ourselves, and they made Dota Underlords, right? And they simplified the interface of the original Auto Chess is like, if you think this is hard, it was weird because it was a Dota mod. It was almost impossible to get into. I almost gave up in the beginning. I'm really happy I didn't, because I love the game a lot. In parallel, Riot made Teamfight Tactics, right? Because a lot of people at Riot were really into Auto Chess, and they felt that they could contribute to the conversation. And of course, this in some way weirdly is not mirrors is the wrong word, but it reminds me of back in the day, probably around 2009 or 2010, probably 2010, right? When Valve announced Dota 2, even though there was Dota inside as a StarCraft mod, right? And then League, obviously, right? Like Riot made League, and there were a bunch of other MOBAs, like massively online multiplayer online battle arenas. Man, I'm getting the acronyms wrong. And it's again the same two companies. It's Valve and Riot, right, competing in this space. And once again, similar to, well, whatever you want to think about it. And I have no horse in this race. It looks like Riot's coming out on top, at least right now, right? Because it definitely looks to me, as far as I can tell right now, the Teamfight Tactics is of higher popularity if you count games people watching on Twitch. There's my history summary of the genre. But this is not even the things I'm saying right now, right? I could say, oh, this started about 3 years ago, and you'd believe me. No, this started about probably less than a year ago, right? And they've just all moved really fast, which is maybe also one of the reasons why some of the clients and the game in some spots still looks a little bit iffy and janky and like open access, and it's beta, right? Like all of these things. I don't know, Zach, if you know that if Underlords is still considered beta, but Teamfight Tactics is definitely considered beta. I don't know if Zach's still there.
I definitely believe it.
Right. Yeah, so it's these things are still considered like in active development, but also so is League and so is Dota 2 or any other game of that nature because the developers tend to patch it and add champions and heroes and try to keep it fresh for the people who are actively engaged in it. Anything else?
I mean, you were talking about us potentially. I don't know if I could do that right now, but I would definitely like to watch you play one more and talk it through again if that is something that makes sense.
Oh yeah, I can definitely do that. I can also just try a ranked game or something like that if that makes sense. I mean, I'd love it if one of you would jump in with me, because if you just jump in and play a normal game, you could do that. But I assume that Zach, you probably don't even have the client installed, and Nick, I assume that you maybe still feel like this is too much to handle.
I did
installed it, but I don't have headphones on me, and I don't know. That would be a disaster.
Right. And Nick, you're probably.
I did install it, but it might be a bit much for me right now.
Okay. Do you guys want to watch me play one more?
Yeah, I would do. Watch you would do one more. Are there any other questions from people watching?
So I haven't seen. Taylor Anderson says Yordle Knight Sorcerer is also a fave.
Thank you for sticking around, by the way, and joining.
Taylor Anderson, I wish I could pull off. Like I tried it yesterday. I think that was one of. If you look at my play history, I think that's one of my 8th places, because I just don't get it. Right? Like I want it to come together, and somehow I can't pull it off. And I don't know if it's because the other team has items that just keep the Yordle ability from not working, right? Because Yordles, they basically have an evasion ability. They can dodge attacks. But then there's an item that basically makes attacks undodgeable. And so I'm like, is this what's happening? Or, that's the benefit of sticking. And again, I think this is like just a good piece of advice. If you're starting playing a game like this and you're just losing a lot, stick to a build that you're trying to achieve every time. And of course, it won't always come together because maybe someone else is going for the same build. But that doesn't. Who cares, right? It's like
I'll be back in a couple minutes. But also, Taylor will give you some more thoughts on that.
Right. Oh yeah. So it's fairly easy to swap out Yordles on your game. Yeah. See, that's interesting because I didn't even know that. Right, I didn't even know that that's like a feature of Yordles, that because there's so many of them that you might actually just be able to swap them out on the fly. Because I haven't really... That my level of engagement with a game like this is that, yes, I might read the occasional... Like you see that I'm looking at TFT tier lists and stuff like that. And maybe every now and then I'll read a blog post. In preparation for this, I've also listened to a podcast. But... I have gone deep on other games like Magic and Netrunner. But when I say deep, it's not anywhere close to as deep as someone who's playing this as a streamer, right? Because that requires such a crazy level of dedication, right? I've just played a whole lot, to be fair. Totally cool, right? Because I think someone asked me I think it might have been my wife. She asked me earlier today, like, so how do these people get so good? And I'm like, well, they play one game. It's like when you become a tennis pro, you don't also become a pro in basketball, right? You just have to focus razor sharp. And for some people, that's a cool thing. I think for some people who are very good at it, it's work, right? That's just, at some point, that just turns into, that's your job, and it's work, and it's amazing, but it's also your job. While this is my profession, right, while I do this for a living as a professor at USC, due to the way I engage with it with students, and honestly my personal preferences, it's really interesting for me to have a larger sampling of these kinds of games and a lot of single player games, and then there's only so much time in the day. Yeah, I just have friends who played League and I never wanted to get into League, so if TFT was a happy medium. That sounds cool, right? That sounds really cool. I also have a couple of friends who played League, and they dropped off of League, I think, years ago, and they were happy to pull me back into the fold. And so, pretty sure the reason I got into Teamfight Tactics over Dota Underlords was because of the fact that the people who had been playing it in my circles were mostly ex-League addicts, right? But I don't know. I think it's kind of funny. Like the person I play with right now, or I don't play with right now, he's playing Dota Underlords, and he actually got into like Master, I think, in League. So he was just like, "Oh, I don't get the carousel," and I'm like, "You used to play a League, right?" But you know, to each their own. It's kind of cool to see that there are all these different things floating around, right? Yeah, it's weird. It's really weird. I was just fascinated because I remember, even though I wasn't playing a whole lot of Dota 2 or League back in the day, I definitely loved the narrative around how these different MOBA variants came to be. You know, just as a games scholar and games historian, I thought that was kind of cool. So when this flared up this year, and one of my friends was like, "Oh, we should definitely get into auto chess," I was like, yeah, let's do that. Right? It was almost like the same experience that I had when StarCraft 2 hit, because when StarCraft 1 hit, I was a big first-person shooter fan in the late 90s, and I never really got into real-time strategy. So when StarCraft 2 hit, I was like, this is my chance. Now I can get on board, and then I played a bunch of that. So I've just been having a lot of fun playing this, but the extent to which I play it is maybe like, on average, maybe a game a day, right? And I kind of think that in the near future, because of numerous things, that's going to become potentially even less.
Next game.
Okay, let's do it. Play again. Oh, let's change mode. Let's go to ranked, just so that I get schooled even more. Zach, are you there as well?
Yeah, sorry, I keep muting because doctors. My God.
Well, the only reason I'm asking is because maybe you could I think it would maybe be an interesting dynamic if Nick asks a couple more questions about specifics, and you try to answer it, and then maybe I say something as well. But if I talk the whole time, I'm not going to be able to focus on the game at all.
Yeah, I can try to answer questions. I only know a little bit.
Well, it's basically the two of you having a conversation as like
Sure.
an audio backdrop to me playing the game.
I feel like, I'm probably still under-equipped for that. I feel like our listeners have better questions, but we'll see.
Rodrigo asks, I wonder if Blizzard will work on their own variant as well, or if it will cannibalize on Hearthstone too much. I think the latter. I have no insider information on this at all, but I think that it's more likely that they're not going to do it, because I feel like they're going all in on Overwatch. And of course Hearthstone is a big deal, right? I kind of don't think that they're going to do that, right? But again, they also did it a little bit with MOBA, right? But also with a very different variant. Like, I don't know if they're going to start making a simplified version of this that is like simpler than any of the other things. And, you know, Zach alluded to the fact that maybe at some point someone will make that version that makes more sense. I'd be shocked if Blizzard did that, but you know, I'm not a futurist.
I think that like part of the game is
Zach, your audio's kind of cutting out a little bit. I don't know if that's. Sorry, what can you repeat that?
Yeah, hold on. Let me move to a different spot. I think a big part of the appeal of this game is that there's a lot to learn. Like, I think one of the ways that I think about video game design is I think that there are two skills that people have. There's like performance skill. So like in a first person shooter, being able to like actually actively like aim and shoot and do things. And then, or like be able to like make like, yeah, basically to perform in that way. And then the other kind of like knowledge skill. So like basically to be like, oh, well, maybe you're faster with the trigger, but
Money.
like I know that like this gun beats this gun at this range, and if I do this move and you do that move, then I'll win. And I think League, and by extension this, are like very much knowledge games, and I think that's for a very specific set of people. Like I think you can have games that are like sort of a little bit in the middle that are about like tactical decision making and like in the moment stuff, and less about like raw intense like
Right.
knowledge.
But that specific set of people is huge. It's like one of the biggest games in the world. I mean, that's the part I don't entirely understand, is how complex it is up front, even just visually, sort of understanding everything. That it's weird to me that it ends up being one of the biggest games.
Well, because I think that it being visually hard to understand is actually a feature for like if you're basically like knowledge games are really popular because like that we learn how to play them in school. Like school is teaching you how to like amass large amounts of data and like search through it and remember things and make decisions about stuff. Like that's the structure of that kind of thing. Like the other kind of game is sort of like sports,
Yeah.
like playing sports, but like watching sports, like the people who are not good at playing sports, like people who watch sports, that is also a knowledge game. Like it's all so much stuff in our society is based around like sort of accumulating knowledge and being able to like deploy that knowledge in clever ways. So I think these games that like the games that come, I think culturally designed games like League, like Dota basically, have this like weird interesting or poker have this strange advantage where like you can't design 100 different things and release the game and expect people to understand it when they don't make any sense and have a million like weird side aspects to them. Like it just doesn't work. But if your game is built through mods and you're like structuring it like culturally, or if it's built through like thousands of people playing poker and coming up with poker variants, like basically you build up like a knowledge base in your cultural group that allows the designers to play with this like extensive library of stuff. And so then when Dota finally comes out and is like a mainstream thing, sure, it is completely inaccessible, but like you also have this small cadre of people who like are actually really good at it because they've been in the community for years and they've like built up all of this knowledge, and like the knowledge has been designed in a way that did make sense to some large group of people, even if it isn't accessible. And so I think that's like a very I think Pokemon is really the only game I think of that has like a huge base of knowledge that wasn't designed kind of in a community design structure.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, arguably, like Magic does too, but I think it's different because in Pokemon, like you really need to know all of this really arcane stuff that isn't clear when you look at a Pokemon. Like to be a competitive Pokemon player, you need to know like what everything can level up into and what all the moves that it could possibly be are, and like and what the signifiers are and of something. Magic doesn't really have that hidden information. Like sure, you need to know all the cards, but the card you're looking at is the card that exists.
Yeah.
And in this game, it's like really all about that like massive hidden information. But I think people love it. I just think that like this mechanic is so strong that like, yeah, most people really like this stuff, but like, is there a space for a more minimal set of like a more minimal way to apply these mechanics, like in a way that will be attractive to like board game players or adults who play games? Yeah, there totally is, and there's no way that like somebody.
Yeah, that's exactly what this one. Like this looks interesting enough to me at a high level. I mean, I hate the art and the aesthetic, and
Understandable.
I don't. Yeah, I think it's like objectively terrible. But I and I don't play a lot of PC games myself, but like there's a version like this, just high level again. I would like play the heck out of this on my phone potentially, or with a cooler wrapper.
I mean, you might want to try Dota Underlords on your phone, right? Just you might click with you.
So, like, Nick, have you played Clash Royale?
I think I downloaded and played like 2 rounds, then deleted it.
Oh, Clash Royale is really good.
I think I got the impression I was like, yes, this is good, but also I hate the art as well.
Yeah, the art's not great. It is really good. It's like a deck builder. It's like accessible in a bunch of really interesting ways. And I feel like the Clash Royale people, I hope they're looking at this and thinking about how they're going to make Clash Royale 2 and make it more of a drafting game. Because I think there's just so many components of this game could just plug right into the structure of Clash Royale and just work, but then play out in like a more directed, elegant, like simplified way.
Dota Underlords looks like it has less terrible art, so that might help. No, it's still terrible. Don't get me wrong, but
boy, I don't know about that, man. I think when you play it, you will very quickly realize that it is terrible.
And that's the weird thing to me too. Where like, I don't know, maybe having crappy art is a feature of making it broadly accessible.
No, I mean, I do think there is some interesting thing about crappy art that works. Like, clearly, you know, Fortnite was born off horrible art, and now the art's really good, but, like, their entire style...
Wait, did you just say really good?
Yeah, I think it is really good.
I definitely disagree with the really good, but anyway.
I think the thing is, like, to me, when you look at a game like that, the bar for art is this game highly customizable to the way that players will want themselves to look, and are the variety of looks that are customizable cool? And I think there are a lot of games that really fall short of that. Like Halo is a game that looks really cool, but like if you look at it as a customizable game, it's terrible. Like all the different armor is totally uninspired. It's really boring and weird. It's not fun. Like Fortnite does a really good job on that block.
Yeah, but Halo is cohesive and has like you know, a look. I don't know. Fortnite to me seemed just like a total mess of different styles and ideas.
Yeah, but it's not supposed to be cohesive because it's supposed to be welcoming to a huge amount of people. And I think they do the like total customizability thing very well. I think like if you're looking at it for that bar, like they do it really well, and it's very cohesive for a game that has that. Like compared to like Destiny is very cohesive, but they also try to allow you to like be customizable, but they totally fail. Like
but Destiny's less cohesive though, because there's much more of a mix of like fantasy looking stuff with like sci-fi stuff, and it's just sort of a few things meshed together. Less clear I think than Halo, but. Do you feel like, because I feel like you, Zach, are like not capable of making a not stylish game theoretically, like you wouldn't be happy with it? Because I think your games have great art. Do you think your games potentially would be more successful if they had crappier art?
That's a great question.
I think, first, that's very nice of you to say. I do not think that would be a determining factor in the success of my game. In fact, I think probably if I had like cuter art, maybe in some way, but I don't think people who play my games are looking for that. Although we'll see, because my new game is like filled with.
Hey Zach, remember that bird game you made and never released?
Yeah, I think like something that you learn very quickly in game design circles is when somebody makes a game that's not successful, everybody you talk to has a different reason why they're quite sure that it failed.
Yeah.
And I think, and I don't think that there's like hopefully most of my games have been pretty successful, at least on the metrics that I have them. But I think when you're looking for like, why isn't it doing this, or what, you know, it's like such a constellation of components that I don't know that I can boil it down to that.
Well, it's more like I think sort of like stylish, clean art. There's probably a good chunk of people that would turn off because it would look like bland or something versus looking like cutesy and colorful and inviting. Especially not people who are like Zach Gage fans, but people who are just browsing on the App Store. I don't know what percentage of people that play your games are in that category, But I think that's.
Well, I don't think there are a lot of 15-year-olds.
15-year-old what?
Very least. Like I think that this kind of like structure, like the Fortnite structure of art and like the league structure, really appeals to like people who are looking to be very expressive with their characters in games. And there are a lot of people in like a lot of different. It's not just 15-year-olds, but assuredly 15-year-olds are a huge part of that group. And I don't think that's really my audience, so I don't know if there's like a huge.
Well, that's why I'm wondering about your audience. Like, if if your games were less visually sophisticated and just more like, sort of cutesy or whatever, drew people in more in that sense. I wonder if that's like a. I'm not saying by the way, I'm not saying at all you should do this in the least. I'm just curious as part of the discussion.
I think if my games had characters, they would probably do better.
Right. Yeah, like more. I guess something like that, more something to like grasp onto.
Yeah,
Like your games are very like elegant and functional, but they're not trying to. I don't think they're trying to specifically draw you in visually. They're more trying to draw you in conceptually.
Right, and the visuals are like a bridge to the concept.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How's this going for you, Andy?
It's going okay. I'm in second place right now. Every time I look down like this, I'm like looking under the mic to my screen. The setup isn't. I still have to get this set up. Yeah, people here are saying strong start, and then yeah, Taylor Anderson. Yeah, Taylor Anderson previously also said a simpler auto chess from Blizzard would probably kill, but yeah, they seem like they have a ton on their plate. Yeah, couldn't agree more. Also, not even simpler, but more user-friendly. Yeah, I think everyone right now in that space is working on that. Like, even the people who are, like, at Riot, like, I think they're aware of the fact that this is not the most user-friendly version of their game. Maybe Michael Bro should make an auto chess-like. That could be interesting.
I don't know that I would.
He'd actually have better art for a change.
Yeah.
I don't know that I would specifically say that Michael Bro games.
Right.
But he would definitely make it a lot minimal, and I would definitely want to play it.
Right. Okay, so I'm hanging back right now in case you were wondering, right? Like I actually shifted compositions 4 times at this point, I think. And now I actually early on have Blade Masters, Knights, and Imperials. Blade Masters, again, similar to the Gunslingers, have a chance to trigger additional attacks when they hit. Imperials, one of them gets double damage, which is amazing if that hits Draven, because Draven's very strong, but also that doesn't help me right now. I'm still losing. Yeah, Knights just give people shields. That's Zach. Honestly, a bunch of things that you know from Dota Underlords have an equivalent here and then a different name. Right.
That makes sense.
Like
yeah.
I've played so much of this
Pretty
now
hard
that
to come up with a design all yourself.
Yeah. No, they copied it and then changed it, probably, right?
Yeah.
So what are knights in? What are the 3? I mean, it's very strong warriors, right? I think Underlords has warriors, and warriors are a thing that is a good opening composition, right? And here it's knights.
I think the thing that's most exciting to me about new crop of that includes these auto chess games, but also battle royale games, is that there's this like very compelling part of the formula to me, which is that these games have somehow convinced hardcore game players that randomness is cool. Like, you're talking about a move that, like, one of your characters gets double damage and you don't know which one it's going to be. That's something that would be like hardcore game players would like really rebel against something like that, because they want to play games that are like, a measure of their skill. But there's something about the structure of these games. I think probably maybe the length or like the sense of like playing against these people and having these people slowly be eliminated in sort of like a more tournament format. There's something about it that makes hardcore players welcome the randomness and get excited about it. And I think that's so awesome, because it's the same thing that makes something this complicated extremely accessible to new people. And it also, I think, makes it much more interesting. I think randomness is like a really great tool in games, and it's something that people actually really enjoy when they're not really busy
Right.
being off of it.
Well, I mean, you know that a lot of people who play this are people who well, not all of them, but a lot of them are former Hearthstone players, right? So it does attract a certain type of person, it seems, that's like maybe more into the idea of randomness. But yeah, there's so many things in this game where the items are just like, or the traits are like 30% chance to hit, right? And I think, if anything, I think the development team, I think, is going to go harder on that, in that direction, right? To just make it more accessible.
I definitely think that like there's a certain appeal here to people playing Hearthstone, but I also think it's like, I think you gotta respect that there's this sea change in the big games, because it's like, what are the biggest games in the world? Fortnite,
right?
Apex, PUBG, all the different auto chesses. Like every single one of these games is built in a way that's like extremely random. Extremely random. Well, and I think that's such a sea change from, just 5 years ago, where it's like,
you may have mentioned this already when I wasn't focusing, right? But randomness generally tends, like, not always, but often we equate it with accessibility.
Right. But I mean, just compare that to, 4 years ago, it was like, League of Legends, which is very different.
By the way, are
you
guys...
StarCraft, which is not random.
Is anyone looking at the chat? Or am I looking at the chat?
I'm not looking at the chat. Is Nick looking at it?
I don't think anyone is.
I've been jumping back and forth. I'm looking at it now, yeah.
Okay, BRK DNCR asks, how do the champions choose who to attack? Is it easy to anticipate how things are going to go by just looking at the board setup? Well, some of the characters are like assassins, and they jump to the back row. So sometimes it's like you can slightly anticipate what's going to happen. Whoa, that's a weird bug. But sometimes the pathfinding is so weird. Like every now and then, maybe because the pathfinding isn't finding a solution, people just stand still and do absolutely nothing. And then it's like, is this a bug? Is the pathfinding busted? Is it just like, did their brain turn off? Stuff like that can happen. And when it happens, it's pretty annoying, I'm going to say. Right. Okay, let's see if I can still get this composition to do anything. Robert D. Bruce, the friend who I mentioned earlier who plays more Dota Underlords, is like, wow, that courier is super cool. Of course. Yeah. In a moment of weakness, I spent money on Riot Bucks to get the cool courier. Oh, and Ixnot9 says, hi, Zach.
Hi.
Ooh, I like this. Okay, so let's put that in. Let's put the Morello on him again, although that didn't really work last turn, but I'm going to just do the same, maybe the same mistake again, not sure. Let's see.
Zach, are you in New York the weekend of October 12th? So for me and all our listeners to know.
Look, that's a very good question.
Because I am.
I'm paying so little attention to the game, even though you guys are doing all the talking, that I'm at 59 gold. After 50, you don't get more interest. 60 doesn't net you more money. So I'm like literally sleeping on having money. Oh my god. So by the way, this giant dragon is a transformed Shyvana. So this hero up here that I earlier said is really strong, that's what happens when that champion turns into their superpower. Shapeshifters don't repeat their ultimate, so a lot of characters, when they deplete their mana and get their ultimate, and they don't die, they just get more of it, right? The shapeshifters just transform into something that's way more powerful. Have any of you guys played Totally Accurate Ballot Simulator? It's like a version of this game made for stoners. So that matron boy asked that. I definitely have it in my wish list, right? Because I saw people play it on Twitch, and I was like, this kind of looks like a better Goat Simulator. Like it sounded like a game, which, just for the record, also Goat Simulator, perfect for that kind of a crowd.
You got out from me, Andy, by the way.
Sorry, what?
You cut for a minute. I don't know
Oh,
if it was for
okay.
everybody, but-
Oh, that's terrible. Okay, I hope audio is still working. Can you hear me now, Nick? Uh-oh. Did we just lose everyone?
I can hear you.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm here.
From this experience now, I also see why pro streamers do like dual computer. It's not even dual monitor. It's like dual computer streaming. Because I am getting, like, every time I alt tab to something else, I'm getting frame rate issues. Right? And I'm just like, oh yeah, if I had two PCs, that would be better. Of course, that sounds crazy. Okay, whatever. Let's just take this. Rob says he can hear me, so maybe that just cut out on Discord. I'm not sure. I mean, it's clearly the smartest thing that we could ever do to do like this super complicated multi-channel setup for our first stream. But come on, it's working for the most part. I've seen more.
High difficulty up front.
Let's level up. This is because this isn't crazy. This is just insane that I'm not leveling up. So just to be clear, I'm looking to level up Draven. That's my main goal right now. I have another Draven here in my shelf, but this is a level 1 Draven. I desperately want that to go to level 2. I'd also like to put more good items on Draven, but still 2 rounds away from that. Come on, win the round, please. Please win the round. You got this. No, you don't got this. Nope. So close. So this guy has an item on here that makes the attacker heal like a percentage of their damage, right? And you can put 3 items, a max of 3 items on each champion, and depending on their combinations, you can get pretty amazing combos. Let's just roll a lot here and see if they're. So the problem with rolling a lot is because I'm looking for the Draven, I might overlook another really good thing. What am I trying to combine here? That's actually a not.
Did you read Robert Bruce's question?
I did
Robert
not.
Bruce, how often do you activate this many different synergies? You have 5 different synergies right now, but all tier 1.
Because I tend to like try different things with the characters I know. I mean, obviously, or not obviously, but often it's better to go all in on one. Like 6 Blade Masters is amazing. They're just like always way better. Obviously at the cost of not having something else. Okay, I'm losing. To be clear, I'm losing again to the Shapeshifter player. Right? I just couldn't make it work. Like I wasn't the Shapeshifter comp was definitely not coming together for me.
And that dragon is a fuck.
The dragon's again, Shyvana with the right items is nuts.
I feel like that thing was killing you a bunch in the last game too.
Yeah, so here's that Shapeshifter, and it has the Spear Shojin on it. After casting their spell, the wearer's basic attacks restore 15% of their maximum health. Yeah, I know, Rob. I'm not paying attention to the gold. I should be re-rolling like crazy or leveling up. Right, so let me go back to my board. There it is. There we go. Okay, so unfortunately it's too late for this round, but it doesn't matter because I'm playing against creeps or NPCs. There are some signposts, I think, in Underlords or even in the old auto chests where you'd know that your composition's not coming together because you would lose to these. I find it's a lot harder to lose to them now. So I'm going to do a little thing here where I go over to my browser, and I'm just interested right now because I can't be bothered to check it out otherwise. I'm going to go to Draven, and I'd be like, what does he want? Yeah, he wants the Bloodthirster. And he wants the recurved bow and that thing. Do I have that? I do not. But I do think I can put the Bloodthirster together, which is a sword and a cloak.
Can you ever gain health as your character? Like as a player?
You cannot. So that way the game has a defined ending, right? Like it's for sure gonna end. Because you're not gonna ever get you're never gonna go up in health. Yeah, so now my level 2 Draven is doing all the work, right? So if you look at the damage dealt over here on the right, sorry, it just went away. You can see that Draven's basically my carry, right? Without Draven right now, this whole thing would have not worked. So that's another thing, right? Like, it's just like sometimes you can be really down and out on your luck, and suddenly your entire composition will come together because you get the right item or you level up the right character. 84 gold. Oh my god, this is insane. What am I even looking for right now? I think I want to put the Aatrox out, but I'd also like to level out the let's just level up like crazy, because this is, let's put out the Aatrox. Well, no, let's put out the level 2 here. So another thing I didn't talk about at all, and I'm also not paying attention to at all right now, is positioning. Right? Yes, obviously you'll put your like ranged characters in the back and stuff like that. But there are all kinds of other compositions that have to do with items or traits that just like buff different. Oh my god, this whole lightning thing here is Kennen. It's a character, Kennen's ability. Man, that Draven is doing work. That's not helping me. Those area of effect spells are super strong. Okay, let's see. What am I going for here? I don't know. Let's just, I don't even care. Like, I think I'm just going to protect the Draven so he doesn't immediately get attacked, but then afterward, none of these characters here particularly care about whether they're being shielded or not. Alright, let's do this. Let's just go super flat, see what happens. Again, sometimes people run assassins, and then those assassins will jump to your weakest character and kill him off. Okay, that was actually really cool because that Hex Tech bomb that disabled the ability, the items, didn't disable the items for my Draven. That might not matter, but we'll see.
Damn.
Oh, damn, this dragon is
Yeah.
murdering me. Well, I still got it.
You're
So
dragging you down.
Look at how much damage Draven did. Right, Draven did 10,000 damage just now on the right. So I find that to be the coolest. I said this earlier, but I'll just say it again. I think that's one of the coolest features. Originally, I thought that was kind of a pain. I don't even know if this is a good item for me right now. I'm not paying attention again. Oh yeah, I can put another rapid fire can. They do stack. What did he want again? Let's go to Draven. Big Rod would have been better. Big Rod would have been a lot better, but oh well. That's fine. I'll just put another rapid fire cannon on him. So that's actually a stupidly strong. So the rapid fire cannon, where gains 100% attack range, so now he can just attack everything on the board. Attacks cannot be dodged, and I just upped his attack speed by another 0.2. Right, so that is a powerful Draven, which might carry me through a bunch of rounds, or I'll just lose the next round. Could also happen depending on who I get matched up against. I get matched up against, oh man, an assassin, right? So you just saw a bunch of heroes jump into the back line and immediately attack my Draven. But my Draven's still staying strong. Man, my Draven, amazing. So my friend who got me into auto chess in the first place, Simon, he is the best Draven player I know, and I rarely go for Draven, but right now I understand why he does this. Yeah, and Robert's saying Bloodthirster OP. Yeah, the Bloodthirster is good, right? Basic attacks heal the wearer for 40% of the damage dealt. So because this guy's already doing way more damage, he's just healing up all the time. Nick, are you still there?
Yeah.
Are you? Is some of this stuff clicking a little bit more?
Yeah, a little bit.
Thanks, Rob.
And you went back up to third.
Yeah, so I'm. Well, I say I'm definitely coming at top 4. I might not, right? Because again, I'm fighting against the probably dude who's been murdering me the whole time. Well, let's see. Yeah, I don't think I can. Can I survive this? Come on. You can do this. Nope, you cannot. You cannot do this. Ugh. Nope, that's it. So I'm out. Right. And puts me in 4th. So 4th is fine. for ranked, and you'll see that when I exit the game now. So it's going to go back to the client, hopefully. Actually, there's the client. So as long as you come in the top 4, you gain league points or whatever LP stands for, right? And then if you get to 100, you go to the next rank, and I'm in gold 4 right now. You go to gold 3 and yada yada yada, right? But it does matter.
And 55 just joined. Sorry, bad timing.
Robbers say,
a few people say GG.
Spend that money. Yeah, I mean, I'm totally okay with the outcome of that, right? Like, it was... So, again, I said this earlier about the aesthetics of the game. It's super fun. I'm going to get away that background for now for a second. It's super fun when your composition comes together. Rob's saying dying with 71 gold should be an achievement. Dude, it's exactly how I die in Spelunky, right? I die with like 80 bombs or something like that. But yes, it should be an achievement. So what happened there just now, from my point of view, is I love that I come in. Like, I would have loved to come in top 3. That's more league points or whatever. But the comp came together. Draven is a super strong character, and you saw that I had like a little bit of a combo going. There's another item that just where his attack speed stacks over time. I wish I would have put that on it, and if I would have paid attention at that one carousel, I would have gone for the right item to do that, because that way that character just becomes almost unbeatable, right? It's just insane. So that was a good game for me. Like, sometimes if you go through a series of 8th and 7th places, as in every other game, like, you maybe start questioning your ability to use your brain, right? But like, it's a game of chance, right? Yeah. You can also go through a dry spell, and I mean, Zach can attest to this, right? Like, we used to play poker at his place, or I think they still do. I just no longer live in New York. And you'd have good days and bad days, right? You'd have days where you win a lot, and you have days where you lose a lot, and that's just the nature of random games. But they are, they're still deeply skill based, because it amortizes over time, right? And then it just depends on how long, and I talk about this in class all the time, it depends on duration of the game versus amount of randomness, right? That's usually, for me personally, a quality criterion. Poker works so well, like, it has a lot of randomness. The edges that people have over others are small, but but the individual play session is so short that the best of n, just, you can play so many games to like determine if you are definitively like getting better at the game, right? So that's usually my take. And I think in this game, like, you'll see here in the client, it says I played 29 minutes. For a game like this, where there's a sufficient amount of randomness, I still feel like I'm getting like a good play experience in 29 minutes. So, and it's shorter than Teamfight Tactics, right? I feel like Teamfight Tactics was more like 45 minutes. And like, let's not even talk about Dota and League, right? That's one of the reasons I used to prefer StarCraft, because you could lose fast in a StarCraft game, or win fast if you like went for super aggro strategies.
I've got to get going, Andy.
Oh, okay. Zach, are you still here?
Yep, I'm still here, although I probably should go soon.
Okay. Well, I mean, we don't have to drag this out. Nick, you can sign off, and we can close it out in a minute or two, because I still want to talk to Zach about one or two things.
No, thanks for showing the overview. This was helpful for me, and I'm sure other people watching as well.
Yeah, I think if everything went well with OBS, we'll probably archive this on a future YouTube channel. So if people want to watch that again, we can point them to it. And I think
some people involved with the game can hear me calling the art terrible.
So ideally, in the future, we can do this more often, right? Like, by more often, I mean maybe once or twice a month, right? Yeah. Like, more reliably. Ixnot says, very cool show. I suspect would have been very confused on the podcast without it. Yeah. Oh, Rob says, and yes, I know it's hard to optimize the economy when you're teaching. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the challenge for the podcast, is to keep it as high level as possible for as much as possible.
Oh, and Ix also says, I reserve the right to still be confused. Yeah. That's totally okay. There's so many games that confuse me, and I somehow still get a lot of pleasure out of them. Matron Boy says, is a really fun hangout. Hope you do more. Okay, take care, Nick.
But thanks, everybody. Talk to you later. Bye.
Yeah, bye.
Hey, Nick.
Matron Boy says, is a really fun hangout. Hope you do it more. Yeah, Matron Boy, I hope we do it more too. But, it's like, from all of us, this is not our main job, so I want to do more of it. Maybe we'll do it for every show. Maybe we'll do it for shows where it makes sense, because maybe one of us has played a lot more. A lot of times, one of us has played a lot more of the game than the other three, right? So this is a really good way to show the others, like, hey, you've never played the game before. Let me give you an in, because like when Zach did that for Brogue, like I'd never played Brogue before. I think I would have had an extremely hard time figuring out the interface and all that stuff. BRKDNCR94. I'm still confused about the carousel. I think the carousel would be better if it was just a list, right? Or it was like, imagine like I hand you whatever it is, I don't even know right now, 12 magic cards, and like, here, you get first pick because you're behind, right? And then you pick the card you want. That's basically what the carousel is. But they made it this weird physical thing where you're like trying to, like, your little hero is trying to run to get that card, right? It's like a little bit like, let's throw all the cards on the table and now let's make it a little bit more like a real-time struggle to get the card, which I think on paper sounds great, but is very hard if you're not familiar with the set, right? And I know Zach might have opinions about this, because I know that when we play Magic the Gathering drafts, it's like the first hand you get, it's just massively overwhelming, right? If you've never seen the set before, it's like 14 or 15 cards, you know none of them, and then you have to sort of figure out what's going on, right? So I think they meant well by doing that. I don't think it really works well in the game, and I'd prefer if it was just a like stack of cards that you get handed and you have 10 seconds to pick one, and then the next person has 10 seconds, and so on. I don't know what you think about that, Zach, but I think
I think with a lot of this stuff, it's really got it, and so complicated, and why does it have to be so overwhelming? But then, like, the flip side of it is that a lot of these mechanics are designed for expressivity,
right?
And I think, for the people who are, nobody's playing this game who isn't interested in learning an incredible amount and put a ton of time into it and learn all of the things, right, and know how all of the things work. Like, I think you have to kind of give the complexity a pass, because this game is designed for people who are thrilled about complexity and want to engage with it aggressively. And so I think when you look at it in that way, it's sort of like the carousel part, I don't know if people love that or not, but I do think there's an argument to be made where it's sort of like very similar to Derek's angle on, like, I just going to put the whole kitchen sink in Spelunky
Right.
too. It's sort of like, here's a way that the game is going to be like wilder and weirder and allow players to be a little bit more expressive. And I think probably people are into that kind of thing, even if it like is actually pretty alienating.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's a fundamental tension in game design, right?
Yeah.
Fundamental tension that specifically the two of us can go probably very, very deep on. But let's not do that right now. But I fully agree with what you just said. Saturn955. I'm not confused because I just got here. Cool. Ixnot, make the grad student do it. Nah, I try to make if I have grad students, I try to make sure they stay healthy. And that's funny because the next person is a grad student of mine. Rokanan says, nice stream. Thanks, man. We have fun doing it. And then Matron Boy says, oh God, yeah, don't mug yourself. As occasional is more than okay. Honestly, the whole reason we're putting this up live, it stressed me out a little bit, but the last time we did it, where I forgot to hit record, I had so much fun doing it. Even though there were 0 people online, like I think we had one random dude who just randomly passed by, and now I think we have something like 13. That's fine. This doesn't have to have 30,000 for me to feel like it's worth my time, right? Because I enjoy talking to a small, like, this is actually exactly the size of my game prototyping class at USC, so it's perfect. Matron Boy says, you must be all so busy. I think right now we can all say that while we're all busy, I think Nick and Doug are specifically being hit by the release windows of their respective games, and that just makes it really,
Nick
really
and
rough.
Doug.
Yeah.
Zach and Doug.
Oh, sorry, Zach and Doug. What did I just say? Nick and Doug? Oh, God.
Nick and Doug.
No, Zach and Doug are putting out games pretty soon, and we're all really excited for them because we've got like a little bit of a, we got like early look at those, and they both look really, really cool. I mean, everyone knows about Mutazione. I don't think Zach's announced his game, so that's all coming
No,
out.
really soon though. Really
Yeah.
freaking soon.
Yeah. How far along are you code complete? Is that anything you can talk about? I don't know. Maybe if you don't want to talk, we can just skip it.
I will have more information really soon.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm busy, but I teach classes and I do this as my creative practice. I think I mentioned that in the last podcast. We have a lot of freedom in arts departments to figure out what it is that you want to do with the days you're not teaching, because you don't teach all the time. And yeah, I thought it was going to be making more games again immediately, because that's kind of the reason I took the job in the first place, having come from a research university where my job was mainly to like work with grad students to produce publishable papers. And I thought I was just going to go straight up back into like making a bunch of game prototypes. I did a couple and I liked them. Maybe I'll work on them again, but this has been more fun than I ever thought it would be. Like when I started thinking about what this would be like with Nick and then with Zach and Doug, I thought like, yeah, it's just going to be us goofing off on a podcast, but it's a cool activity. It's a fun, cool activity, and I hope that we do it for a really long time. BRKDNCR. I guess it's more confusing since I have no freaking idea what any of the champions do. Yeah, I just choose the gnarliest looking one. Yeah, and you know what? That's what you should do. Like, I just super go into whatever it is you feel like and not care at all if that loses you the game. Because in the worst case scenario, you'll just get kicked out super fast. And then then you know, oh, that's not really a thing that works. And then maybe that's all you want to get out of the game. Like, I don't think you have to immediately do the, like, let's look up what all these champions do. I mean, eventually you want to do it if you want to get competitive. But I think it's fun to just goof off and see what the teams do. Because, you know, honestly, just on a mechanical programming level, this is a nuts game to just watch. And thankfully, because of Dota Underlords and Teamfight Tactics being really entirely free and you can just go and grab them, and they're much more easier to control, it's just a thing that I think everyone should just look at and be like, yep, got it, and move on. Or you're like curious and you stick around, right? I think I happen to have stuck around. Chat's going wild. Ixnot9 says the Brogue one was cool too. I gotta see a chunk of it. Oh yeah, that Zach streamed that on his channel, right? That's another. I think that one we actually announced on the Twitter feed, and I think you had probably also like on the order of like a dozen or so or 20 people.
Yeah, on the order of 3 people.
Yeah. Well, this one's like, again, this is not huge, but like that's not, I don't. We do this anyway, right? We do this anyway, and the fact that we're just gonna also in the future hit start streaming was just a thing that I was curious about on a technical level, and on a what does this feel like to talk to a couple of people online and like moderate a chat. Like I love watching Twitch. Like, it's how I get a lot of game news these days, and there's a lot of like really good streamers for the games that I like, and for more general stuff like Co Carnage, who just like plays whatever's out, and then does Dropped Frames, which is a show that he's on, and I like that stuff, and so I was just curious, right? And that's what happened. Matthew W. I had it on in the background. It was fun to listen to. Cool. Thanks, man. That's why we do it. Like, as long as you guys think it's cool to listen to, we'll never stop. Rodrigo says, by the way, to anyone who might be interested in Slay the Spire from the podcast a couple of weeks ago, the 4th character is coming out tomorrow. Wow, I did not know that. Thanks, man. Thanks a lot. I haven't even played the 3 characters who are in the game, but I want to get back into it. But yeah, there's only so many hours in the day. Taylor Anderson, oh really, I didn't know there was another 4th character coming. Rodrigo says, on the beta branch, Steam only for now. Ixnot, I still do the daily from time to time, but the crazy beta with the major rebalancing was my favorite time in Spire. 4th character might feel like that too. I love that you guys are having a nice little chat about Slay the Spire in the background. That show was really, really fun to do. And in the meantime, I've talked to some other of my friends who are like struggling with getting to Ascension 16 or 17 or something like that, which is I think like 3 Ascensions away from like really, really being done with the game. Taylor Anderson, top thing I've learned is that it's way funnier to feel out the differences in champs than studying charts. Yep, I am the same person. Of course, that, like, depending on your ability to perceive and get enough feedback from that, it goes only so far in, like, leveling. But that's also where I stop, right? If I get to, like, gold in, like, I don't think I've ever made it to platinum in anything, right? Which, you know, whatever. It's like at some point I'm just like, no, this is about my level of commitment. And now if I want to get better, I know what to do. Like, a lot of my friends used to watch me play Magic. And then before I started auto chess, I was really into Magic Arena. And I think Magic Arena is a very strong implementation of Magic. But they'd watch me play and be like, "Oh, you just did the wrong thing." And I'm like, "Yeah, I don't look at it that close sometimes." Like, if I always assume that my heuristics are not garbage. But of course, there are situations where it would be probably not a ton of effort to not just do the heuristics thing, like the big rule of thumb thing, and just honestly just sit down and do the math. Be like, oh, I should be doing this, like, more precisely. And then I'd maybe win more matches. Not maybe, I'd probably win more matches. Right? I'm not planning on becoming a tournament player. I understand that conceptually, and I understand it theoretically. Practically, it's different for different people. Like, we had people on the show here who were just like, I love making roguelikes. I don't play roguelikes. I prefer to put my time and skills into being better in my job or being better in other things. Hi, doctor.
Yeah.
And so, that's where I stand on that. Are you not paying enough attention to your dog, Zach?
She's just, like, very nervous right now.
Ixnot. I also need to try the community-generated Chars mods. Yeah, that's a thing that Doug Wilson was talking about a lot, right? Again, due to time constraints, he didn't get around to it. But it was him saying that, like, and I didn't even know that before, right? That Slay the Spire had like mods on Steam, and of course Doug had been playing the Switch version, so he was like, oh, wait a minute, I didn't know this. Now I have to play the Steam version. That dev Anthony was a great guest. Yeah, he was. That guy, like, I mean, it comes from a background of running various games in a store and, like, working in a store, and also, like, having a huge, like, background in, like, managing a community of pretty high level netrunner players. So I think, sometimes people say that playing games and making games is wildly different, but sometimes if you have the knack and ability for that kind of thing, that can go a really, really long way in, like, trying to sit down and fiddle with your own style of thing. And also they just hit a really good sweet spot, because at the time when they started development, I think that genre, that whole, like, single player card based roguelike style thing wasn't really a thing. Right. And so I think, yeah, he's very good at talking about his process, right? This is a thing that I think, Zach, when I met you in the first years that we were friends, you always said that grad school didn't give you a whole lot, but that the one thing it did give you was the opportunity to practice your ability to talk about your work, right?
That is true.
Right. Well, I'll never forget that, because that was a thing that you just, like, you tend to repeat the things that you find are, like, crucial and critical for the way you've developed as a creator, right?
That's a nice way to say that I don't know very much.
Oh, come on. No, it means you just sometimes you just repeat the things that are most important, right?
Yeah.
So I've internalized that, and it's a thing that I try to get across in my teaching, right, to my students, to say, all of these things are opportunities to build portfolio pieces and to learn to talk about your work and to take in feedback and process it, and all those things. Let's see.
Yeah, totally. I gotta run, Andy.
Okay. You can
This has
sign
been great,
off.
though.
Yeah, you can sign off. I'll catch the 2 more questions on my own, and thanks a lot, Zach.
Cool.
That was cool.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Andy. This has been really fun.
Sweet. I'll talk to you.
Yeah.
Talk to you Thursday.
Yes.
Okay, so Saturnin 55. Bye, Doug. That was Zach Saturnin. oh no, I get the joke. Oh no, I'm not understanding my own joke. Yeah, they sound too close. So Saturnin 55 also says Derek Liu is doing a similar kind of stream while working on fan game movie trailers. Very interesting too. Yeah, a couple of developers do that. I think it would scare me to death to have to do that, but also whatever. I guess I'm doing this here too, so why not? What's the guy's name who's making Manifold Garden? Wiley Chur, I think is his name. He is always streaming his development process. Back in the day when Vlambeer was making Nuclear Throne, I think Rami was streaming his development process. These things are really, like, none of this existed when I started any games related thing. We don't have... So Saturn is also asking, what's your YouTube channel, Andy? I have a personal one, but honestly, it's just... it's me being proud of having managed to do 4 consecutive Spelunky dailies, and the runs are on there. And I think it's just Neelan. It's YouTube/Neelan. We don't have a channel for this yet, but it's the thing I'm doing next, so that I can take the video from this and archive it up on that YouTube stream. And I'm pretty sure that if it's not already taken, it'll just be the Spelunky Show, or some variant thereof if it's taken. But yeah, follow developers that make games if you're interested in creation. It's a super cool way to just figure out whether this is an activity that you want to do too, or just be interested in it. And then Exodus DXB, hi bud, I'm new to this channel in this game genre. I tried Dota Underlords last night, couldn't get off. Yep, that's how it'll start. Beware. Not tried TFT yet. In short, what's the argument between TFT and Dota Underlords? So Dota Underlords, you may have not been here earlier, but I came through Auto Chess, which is Dota Auto Chess, so it was a mod, and the game was inscrutable, right? It was so hard to control. And then when Dota Underlords came out, it was like, whoa, look at this easy game. You can put items on a character and take them off again without selling the character. So it was like much more generous to the player. And of course, it was easier for me to play because it had all the heroes from Dota Auto Chess. So with a couple of changes. So I recognized most of the stuff again, and it was great until I started feeling, yeah, I'm kind of doing the same thing every time. Like, it's starting to feel very samey, which, you know, that's probably not the case. And also, I didn't rank very high in it. I didn't get very high on the ladder. So when I started Teamfight Tactics, at first it was like total revulsion, right? I was like, wow, this carousel is terrible. I can't deal with it. I don't know what these items are. They're too small. But yeah, man, over time, it's just like once you get to the point where that is no longer a hindrance, it just opens up in ways where there are so many different things that you can build that are viable. And it's like, just now, the second game I played was like Draven Carry. I'd never done that before because I always thought I can't make it work. And, you know, I came in 4th, but I consider that a success. I never got that feeling from Dota Underlords. So what I would do, honestly, is if you liked Underlords, I'd continue playing Underlords until you feel like you've exhausted it. Or you just try Teamfight Tactics in parallel, but trust me on this one, there's a chance that you might, if you're not like deeply into the League lore, you might just bounce off of it really hard because of that. It does not help you at all get into the game. But I find it to be, for me, the better game after playing it for a while. So that's my take. That's my little pitch on why I play Teamfight Tactics over Underlords these days. Sarnan says, a dev from the UFO 50 regular team stream from the UFO 50 team regular streams too. Yeah, I think I would, even if Nick was here, he'd know who that is. I know who it is right now, but I'm blanking on the name. It's one of the developers, and Tyreek Plummer, maybe. Maybe that's the, yeah, right. Thanks, Iggs. It's Tyreek Plummer. Man, I can only say at least 2, but potentially 4 of us are stupidly excited for UFO 50, right? It's if you haven't checked that out, definitely take a look at that. Ace, cheers, pal. Tech TFT. Yep, cool. Love to do it. Glad that was of use to you. I believe the guy. Oh, BRKDNCR for 94. I believe the guy that made Baba Is You streams the dev process too, of Noita, because I didn't know that, and of course, as people here can probably easily guess, we're all very, very excited to play a lot more Noita, because Petri is amazing. I mean, I don't know the other devs. I know Petri Puro. Petri hasn't actually released a game in quite some time, and I can't wait to play. I have early access to it, but I have that weird chip on my shoulder where I'm like, it's not out yet. I'm going to see a lot of early builds. I've heard from others that I need to play this game because I'm going to fall in love with it. I also see how that's going to be an extremely deep rabbit hole, as these all are, right? Because boy, do we live in an embarrassment of riches in terms of quality of games on the market. Which, yeah, now I could reminisce and say, back in 1994 when Doom came out, we had to wait a year for the next blah, 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 right? But like, it's just nowadays is just what a crazy time. So it says Baba streams. Yeah, I don't know about Noita. I didn't know that there were Baba streams. But yeah, I'm sure that if people haven't heard about it, Baba Is You is a very, very unique, very amazing puzzle game that I cannot properly do justice by describing here on the stream. And that I have only scratched the surface of. But I can only imagine that it gets weirder later. One thing that just came to mind was, I think this came up in the conversation earlier, was I think when I talked about Teamfight Tactics, right? There's another game that I just adore, which is Syncope House by Michael Bro. Has a similar weird barrier to entry, that is, everything is in Portuguese. So if you speak Portuguese, great. If you don't, yes, you can look it all up. The iconography, though, is so good that if you can overcome that, then after like about, I'd say 3 to 5 hours, you literally have internalized all the icons, and the text becomes interesting and secondary, but you don't need it to play the game. And the fun thing for me right now, by the way, is because none of the other dudes are here anymore. I don't even know if anyone's still listening to this. Oh yeah, no, it says 8 people. Cool. But I think that does it, right? I think we're good. I think that's about enough as much as we have to offer. And that was also 2 hours and 20 minutes. So didn't feel like that. Didn't feel like 2 hours and 20 minutes. Yeah, that was cool. So going once, going twice, going 3 times. I don't see any new questions in the chat. Video games trying to kick me into learning Portuguese. Yeah, Jess, go ahead. I'm definitely not going to learn Portuguese. You guys are all very welcome. Thanks a lot for watching. Again, hopefully we'll do more of these in the future, especially when we know that that's going to be the topic of the upcoming show. Maybe it'll be other games too. Maybe in a future version of this, I'll just say every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday I'm going to stream my Spelunky daily, because I do it on PSN, but I don't have anything hooked up to the PSN, so it's just me streaming the video. And I mostly do it for archival purposes in case I find something funny that I want to show to people. Maybe I'll do it. I don't know. I'll feel it out. I'll see how this feels like 24 or 48 hours later. Oh, here's one more. BRKDNCR94. I've heard you talk several times about that game. Still too scared about the Portuguese part to try it out. So there's a website. If you look up on Google, just like how to play that game, how to play Syncope House or Syncope House cheat sheet, you'll probably find the thing that I basically had open in parallel to playing the game for the first 3 to 5 hours, right? Because it just tells you exactly what all the stuff does, which again, some people think is like not cheating, but it's just like takes away a little bit of the mystique, and some people love that too. So, you know, beware. But yeah, without that, I think I would not have got into it, right? So, and yesterday I talked to a friend who said, I like Syncope House all right, but Imbroglia is actually my game, right? That I really like. Legends of Delocalization, yeah. So it's like there's only so much time in the day. Figure out what matches your style best. It's just that Syncope House comes up a lot because, again, it's like a lot of the games that come up in our conversations and on this stream, obviously, is the kinds of games that constantly get brought up again when you're talking to game designers. As like, yeah, I wish... Game designers love nothing more than to say stuff, man, I wish I had made that, right? That's like, that goes all the way back to Tetris, right? Where it's like, man, I wish I'd made Tetris. And a lot of Michael Bro games fall into that category, right? Where it's just like, did it again. He took something that looks really weird and kept it weird, but made it a lot smaller, and it's really cool, right? So That's where that comes from. Okay, cool. I'm going to sign off because another thing that I just realized is that I need more than one glass of water if I'm going to do this for 2 hours and 30 minutes. So consider me a streamer noob. Yeah, I'll figure that out. But now I have to go and drink some water. So with that, I'm going to sign off. Thank you very much for watching. And stay tuned for the upcoming show next week. Take care. Cheers.